Hi, good morning. Welcome to Cattus Island County Park. My name is Nikki Vernachio, Senior Park Naturalist, and I'm outside today. I'm so happy the weather has given us a break. I think our rest of our day is going to get just sunnier and sunnier. And today I am out on our blue trail. So let me show you a little bit about our trails. Here's our trail map. And this is something that you could go on our website, oceancountyparks.org, and you can find our trail map there. Right here's our nature center, which we've been spending a lot of time in these days with our weather. But today I am out here on our blue trail. So we're about here, and we're going to take a little jaunt up today to one of my favorite spots here in the park that we like to call our Boathouse Site. So that's kind of where we're going today. So I want to point out a few things to you while that sun is peeking out. Signs of spring are continuing to show up here at the park. And one of my favorite fruits is starting to arrive. So take a look at this shrub here. This is called blueberry. And blueberry this time of year is starting to get its green leaves. And most importantly, check out these flowers. Do you see these little bell-shaped flowers? Take a look at the tops of the flowers. They have a little type of a crown, almost like a little crunch, I kind of call it, to the top of the flower. Does that look very familiar to you? If you were to buy a blueberry at a food store, do you know that little crown that's on top of the blueberry? Well, that's very similar to what the blueberry flower has. So these flowers will be pollinated soon, and just very shortly are going to start to turn into blueberries, which is a great food source for lots of animals here at the park, like deer and box turtles, which absolutely love them. This really big tree that's sitting next to the blueberry is an oak tree. So we're going to be taking a walk today around our outer coastal plain here in New Jersey. And at our outer coastal plain, you might have forests that are made up a lot of oaks and pines that are around us. And we also have these great little thorny things here. Really big thorns that help protect them from animals eating them, called briar. This is called cat briar. And briar makes a really nice shelter for maybe a rabbit or a small mammal that might need to take shelter or to hide. So let's continue on our journey. Let's go up the trail a little bit. Birds are singing today. And check out the colors on this tree. So I always think just after rain, I feel like the colors on the trees are very vibrant, particularly the green lichen. So take a look, there's greens and almost aquas and grays. And lichen is actually two organisms that are living together on a tree. It's a fungus and an algae growing together to actually live. And it's usually a great symbol that there's good air quality. You typically don't see lichens growing on trees around maybe a parking lot or a major highway. Now, it doesn't really harm the tree. It just really uses the bark to hold on to and to grow. So come on over. Now, all of our trails here at Cattus Island are clearly marked with a blaze. So this is a blaze here. Our blue trail, as I mentioned before, is marked with a blue blaze. So all of our trails are color-coded, which is great. And this is kind of almost an international way of hiking, having a blaze mostly on the right side of the trail. Sometimes you might see two blazes, one maybe going up to the left or one going up to the right. And that actually tells you the direction the trail is going. So if you kind of get to a spot and you're confused, you can always look on the tree that's blazed to see, oh, that trail goes to the left. Or, oh, that trail goes to the right. If you ever see three blazes together, that usually means it's the beginning or the ending of a trail. So as we approach one of my favorite spots of the park, you can see it's starting to get a lot more green color appearing. This is all low bush blueberry, a little bit different than the high bush blueberry that we saw a few minutes ago. But it's a great place for shelter for many types of mammals. Actually, we have a little chipmunk that was just running across the tree. They're so quick. And squirrels, bunny rabbits, and of course deer that might be nibbling upon them. And then we open up into this beautiful little bay beach. Today it's very quiet, very still. Days in the summer can be very busy out here. A lot of people enjoying the water that's out. We're taking a look at what's called Mosquito Cove. That's a great name, I think, for this area. We talked a little bit about mosquitoes when we're out in the salt marsh. So Mosquito Cove is really a small cove that's off of this bigger part of the bay called Silver Bay. So funny enough, if you looked at a map in the early 1900s, on the map you would see what looks like Cattus Island, but the bay next to it would be called Mosquito Bay. Can you imagine living on Mosquito Bay? No, I can't either. Well, take a look. There's lots of houses that are kind of across the way that were put up after 1960. And really, the name of the bay was changed to beautiful Silver Bay. So you can see how successful just one little change in the name could be to selling, a bit of property. So this little cove, as I mentioned, is called Mosquito Cove. And one of my favorite spots in Mosquito Cove is directly across the way. If you see, there's some trees, what looks like kind of cliffs, and the soil there is actually like a yellowy orange color. So that's called yellow bank. So yellow bank is a higher area of land here in Silver Bay. And it actually is a spot where our Native Americans in the area called Lenni and Lenape had an encampment many years ago. So there's evidence on that piece of property of a shell mound and some artifacts that were once found there. Now Lenni and Lenape would migrate to the coast and do what we do best, catch crabs, maybe oysters and different types of shellfish, and then in the wintertime migrate more inland for other food sources. So that's a great spot there that we have a little bit of Native American history. The soil that's on those banks there is a very yellow orangey color due to the high amount of iron that's in the soil. So when iron mixes with air, it rusts, making that yellowish color. And there's a high quantity called bog iron that can be found out there. Now let me show you one of my favorite trees. I have a lot of favorites here. So this tree, I like to joke around and call this my family tree. And if you've been visiting Cattus Island Park for many years, maybe this is your family tree too. This tree is a very large tree that had a very large limb that would come out so thick that this limb, you could fit 5 or 6 kids on the limb and take a really great Christmas card picture. Now you're saying, well, this tree's almost in the water. Take a look at it and its roots. Now trees can't walk, even though they look like they have feet. They can't move into the water, but this tree actually was in the forest, many yards, which seemed further back into the forest that people would enjoy. Tree isn't moving, but what is moving is the water. The water's kind of coming in more and more, eroding some of the sand and some of the land that's around it, and is causing some of these trees to then get exposed, washing away the soil that's around them and around their roots, and changing kind of the tree and the environment that's around them. Now the water in the bay today is nice and clear, which is great to see. We're going to start seeing more and more critters in this bay water. This water is brackish water, so it's kind of a mixture of salt water and fresh water together. We're going to start seeing blue crabs and all sorts of fish that come around the area. Now a little bit of history about this location. Here at Cattus Island, we like to call this the Boathouse Site. Now Mr. Cattus is where we get the name of the park from, lived here from the late 1800s through the mid 1900s. So he and his family really lived up in New York City, but would come down to Cattus Island kind of as a vacation home or a retreat. And they had a large farmhouse here, which we'll see or talk about at another time. But they also were avid boaters, like many people down at the shore are. So they had a large structure that I like to call a boat garage. So this boat garage held several large boats called catboats, which is a traditional boat that was used in this area. And they would sail through the shores and around the bay. So this large structure actually went out into the water. Now there is a piece of wood that's out there. Now many years ago, I'd say go back 20 years, when the tide is low, you would actually be able to see the foundation of that boathouse in the water, but I guarantee today that is more in the middle of the cove than it is closer now. So let me show you some pictures that we do have on display of the boathouse. Like I mentioned before, this is kind of what it looked like. So you can imagine it's a pretty big structure that went out from this point where they would access their boats. Mr. Cattus was actually Commodore of the Barnegat Bay Yachting Association. And this is super cool. This is called ice boating. And sometimes you can still see ice boating today if it's cold enough during our winter where the bay will actually freeze enough to allow a boat on. But these guys are kind of ice skating and ice boating. The ice boats actually had blades, almost like a sled, on the bottom of the boat, which is a neat way, I think, of boating, that's for sure. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed our little walk today here at Cattus Island. I'm going to plan some more in the future. Thank you so much for visiting us at Cattus Island County Park. My name is Nikki Vernachio, and you guys have a great day today. Take care.